1977 was disco's golden year, but some of the biggest hits came from artists who disappeared as quickly as they arrived. Let's dig into the stories behind 10 unforgettable songs that ruled the airwaves for their brief moment of glory. Brick formed in Atlanta when Jimmy Brown and Reggie Hargis decided to blend disco with jazz fusion, creating something they called Dazz, a combination of dance and jazz. Today, Jimmy Brown still performs with various incarnations of Brick, though the magic of that original lineup has never been recaptured. Now, here's what they don't tell you about Dazz. The song was actually recorded in a converted chicken coop outside Atlanta. The band was so broke, they couldn't afford proper studio time, so they convinced a local farmer to let them use his outbuilding. The acoustics were terrible, but they made it work. Even stranger, the distinctive saxophone sound that made the song famous was created when Brown accidentally broke his reed mid-session and had to play with a damaged one for the rest of the recording. David's soul was riding high as Detective Ken Hutchinson on Starsky and Hutch when he decided to pursue his first love, music. Soul's smooth baritone voice surprised everyone who knew him only as the tough cop on the screen. The recording process was rushed between filming schedules, with Soul flying back and forth between Los Angeles and London studios. After his brief music career faded, Soul continued acting in British television and theater until his passing in 2024. Soul's music career nearly ended before it started when he was arrested for drunk driving just weeks before Don't Give Up on Us hit number 1.
Don't give up on us, baby.
The incident was hushed up by his publicist, but Soul later admitted he was struggling with alcohol throughout his fame. More controversial was his bitter feud with Paul Michael Glaser, his Starsky and Hutch co-star, who reportedly felt betrayed when Soul pursued music instead of focusing on their show's success. David Dundas's Jeans On song started as a jingle for British Jeans, a British denim company desperate to compete with Levi's. The jingle was so catchy that radio stations began playing the full version, and Chrysalis Records quickly signed him to expand it into a proper single. Dundas continued making music sporadically, but returned to his estate management duties, proving that some people really can't afford to have hit records as hobbies. Dundas later revealed that British Jeans never paid him properly for the original jingle, leading to a lawsuit that dragged on for years. The company went bankrupt partly due to legal fees from various disputes, including the one with Dundas. Even more outrageous, the song's success led to a bizarre situation where Dundas was banned from several British clothing stores whose owners felt the song gave unfair advantage to denim competitors. Detroit's The Floaters were 4 friends who met while working at various auto plants in the Motor City. They scraped together money to record Float On at a local studio, with the spoken word introduction featuring each member stating their astrological sign and favorite activities. The group disbanded when the auto industry hit hard times in the early 1980s, with members returning to factory work or moving away from Detroit entirely. The astrological angle wasn't just a marketing gimmick. The group was genuinely obsessed with astrology and refused to perform on dates their psychic advisor deemed unlucky. This led to several canceled shows and angry promoters. Now, that's 3 incredible stories, but we're just getting started. If you're enjoying these forgotten tales from 1977, hit that like button and subscribe for more music history that'll change how you hear these classic songs. Share this with anyone who remembers when these tracks ruled the radio. Peter McCann was a struggling songwriter in New York when he wrote, "Do You Want to Make Love?"
Do you want to make love?
A smooth ballad in his tiny Greenwich Village apartment. He'd been pitching songs to other artists for years with little success, performing in coffee houses and barely making rent. McCann continued writing songs for other artists throughout the 1980s and 90s, never achieving solo success again, but earning a comfortable living behind the scenes. McCann's personal life was far from the romantic image the song projected. He was going through a messy divorce when he wrote "Do You Want to Make Love?" and his ex-wife later claimed in court documents that the song was about his affair with their babysitter. Despite the song's central message, McCann admitted years later that he was terrible at relationships and had written it as wishful thinking rather than from experience. Ed Sanford and Johnny Townsend were session musicians who had played on dozens of records without recognition when they decided to form their own duo, the Sanford Townsend Band. They recorded Smoke from a Distant Fire, using the same studio musicians they worked with daily, creating a polished sound that perfectly captured the transition from folk rock to album-oriented rock. They released several more albums, but never matched the commercial success of their debut single, eventually returning to session work. The song's success created unexpected tension between the two musicians when Townsend demanded top billing despite Sanford writing most of their material. The dispute led to a bitter legal battle over songwriting credits and royalties that lasted longer than their actual career together. 3 more unbelievable stories coming up, but first, if these behind-the-scenes tales are blowing your mind, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And like this video if you're learning something new. And share it with your friends who think they know everything about 70s music. Meco was a session musician and arranger who had worked with Diana Ross and the Bee Gees when he heard John Williams' Star Wars score and had a crazy idea. He spent weeks in his home studio, layering disco beats over Williams' orchestral themes, creating something that shouldn't have worked, but absolutely did. The resulting disco version of the space opera's music became bigger than anyone expected, leading to a brief career of turning movie themes into dance tracks. Meco continued producing music and worked as a music supervisor for films and television until his retirement. What most people don't know is that George Lucas initially tried to stop the release of Meco's disco version of the Star Wars theme Cantina Band, claiming it would damage the film's serious reputation. The legal threat backfired when the song's popularity actually drove more people to see the movie. More controversial was Meco's admission that he had never seen Star Wars when he recorded the song. He created the entire disco arrangement based solely on hearing the soundtrack album. Paul Nicholas was a British actor and singer who had appeared in Hair and Jesus Christ Superstar when he decided to try his luck with pop music. Heaven on the Seventh Floor was recorded in London with a full orchestra,
Heaven on the 7th floor.
giving it a theatrical quality that set it apart from typical pop singles. Nicholas returned to acting after his brief recording career, appearing in British television series and theater productions throughout the 1980s and beyond. The song's title wasn't metaphorical. Nicholas actually lived in a penthouse on the 7th floor of a London apartment building, and the song was inspired by his real-life romantic encounters there. The building's management eventually asked him to move out because of noise complaints from neighbors who were tired of the parties and late-night activities that inspired the song. Hot was formed by 3 musicians who had been working as session players in Los Angeles. The group came together specifically to create radio-friendly pop music, recording Angel in Your Arms,
Angel in your arms.
with polished production and smooth harmonies that perfectly captured the mid-70s sound. After their brief success, the members returned to session work, with Lirios later joining Pablo Cruz and finding greater long-term success. This song became controversial when several other artists claimed they had written similar melodies years earlier, leading to multiple lawsuits over songwriting credits. The legal battles revealed that the music industry was full of songs with nearly identical chord progressions and melodies, making it almost impossible to prove originality. More shocking was the revelation that Hot wasn't even a real band. The name was chosen by record executives who thought it sounded commercial, and the group members were actually different musicians, depending on whether they were recording, performing, or appearing in promotional photos. Thelma Houston was already a seasoned performer with Motown when she recorded Don't Leave Me This Way. But her version transformed the song into something entirely different. Her vocal performance was recorded in multiple sessions, with Houston pushing her voice to its limits to achieve the emotional intensity that made the song unforgettable. The song's success gave Houston her biggest hit and proved she could compete with Diana Ross and Donna Summer in the disco era. Houston continued recording and performing for decades, becoming a respected figure in both R&B and dance music communities. Houston's powerhouse vocal performance came at a personal cost. She damaged her vocal cords during the recording sessions and had to undergo surgery afterward. The medical procedure changed her voice permanently, which partly explains why she never achieved the same vocal intensity on subsequent recordings. More controversial was her bitter relationship with Motown executives, who, according to Houston, deliberately limited her promotion compared to other female artists on the label. She later claimed that racial politics within Motown affected how much support she received, despite Don't Leave Me This Way proving she could deliver massive hits when given the chance. That wraps up the one-hit wonders of 1977. Each of these one-hit wonders has a story that's more interesting than their brief moment of fame might suggest. If you enjoyed these stories of music history, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon for notifications. Like this video and share it with anyone who appreciates the untold stories behind the songs that shaped our culture. So, what other years should we explore for their forgotten musical gems? Let us know in the comments below.